Kathleen,
Here.
Tracy's not here, correct? Here, no
She's
Harold.
you know what? She's coming in right now. She's coming
Okay.
into the meeting, so.
Okay. There she is. No Harold. Barb,
Yes, here.
Sue,
Yes.
and we know Mark's here.
Yes.
Here.
Okay.
She's not here, correct? Here, no, you know what? She's coming in right now. She's coming into the meeting, so.
Huh, that was interesting. Okay, any public participation? Public, I see no public. Okay, need an approval for the minutes, December 20th regular and the 2021 organizational meetings.
I'll move.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
Okay, Lynn, correspondence?
Lynn, you're muted.
I was so busy messing with my speakers to turn down one piece of equipment and turn up the other so you didn't get feedback sorry about that, unmuted now. So Public Library Fund for January. I did send that correspondence, but it was just over $110,500 to the county. Our share was just over $68,500. As far as ending the year, the PLF was down just about, I think, a percentage point and a half. And this month in January, it's up about 4.8% over what was the final kind of estimates that it came out in December. So the economy is starting off strong, at least as far as we are concerned. We should be happy about that, but we will proceed with caution. We did get a thank you certificate from the Census Bureau for our participation in helping roll out the census in Brown County. And I believe I included that in the Dropbox, but it was not available at the time I mailed the packets. And then there were 2 thank you letters from patrons from Sardinia, and I did include those letters in the packets. Very nice little thoughts, one of them calling the staff members angels who really contributed to their well-being, was a lifeline. The library is a lifeline to this person. And then someone from way outside the state who, in memory of some people who lived here, continue to have contribute to the Friends of the Library. So it's nice to know that we fulfill some varying needs. I also listed a couple of items under Ohio Library Council updates that are about legislation, and this was all stuff that passed in that lame duck session that happened just at the end of the year. Sometimes they call it the Christmas tree package because there's so many things just kind of thrown onto, the bills, and they just try to get everything done. But a couple of things that particularly impact libraries are the fact that they did extend the open meetings flexibility through the end of June. So in at least March, we'll start talking about, how do we feel about gathering in groups, or even some people on site, some people off site. You and I all know that things will change over the course of the next couple of months. Conditions will change, and so we will just do whatever is appropriate as we get closer to the time that Zoom is not going to be the primary method of conducting meetings. They also did pass the fiscal officer legislation. They might have done that before our December meeting, and I think I talked about that. But some other things that were actually going through the Senate, stiffer penalties for theft in office. So people who are in the public view need to be careful, or they're going to be paying stiffer penalties. I am sometimes aghast at some of the things that people think that they're going to get away with, but at least the legislators are trying to put some kind of discipline that goes along with it. We talked about the tax credit for real estate that does impact property taxes. What I'm hearing from OLC is that it's not going to be huge amounts of money, and so we'll just have to wait and see about that. And then, of course, there was, I think it might have been a little bit of a surprise to some that the governor had actually signed the Stand Your Ground legislation. And just so you know, that's not going to create any real issues for the public library in terms of, do we have to do new signage? Do we have to worry about that kind of thing? Basically, it just extends the ability of people to stand their ground from what was residence or vehicle to any place where they are legally present. So hopefully we never have to test that one out. But some of the other things that Ohio Library Council has communicated is that we really are going to have our work cut out for us when it comes to education, because there are so many new legislators. One of them is our own representative, Adam Byrd, who is going to be taking the House seat, or has now, I guess, officially taken the House seat. But there are 21 new House members, and so we need to raise up a whole new contingent to understand the value of public libraries and how they're funded. So there'll be a lot of work along those lines. And of course, the state budget, February 1st is when the governor's office should release his version. And then there will be debate and discussion and committees. And then by the end of June, we should have a new budget in play. And then the other thing that I want to point out is that they are holding the library trustee workshop. Sue, I believe you had just gone to that last year when
Yeah.
things shut down.
Everything started to bloom.
Boom. Yeah. So they are actually offering a virtual version of that this year. And so they're keeping it the same time frame, March 6th. So if you are interested in doing that virtually, let me know and we'll get you registered. And I believe that's all I have for correspondence.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay, Miss Sarah, on to the financial report.
Great. Happy New Year's, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Hope you had wonderful holidays. Appropriation summary, the month-to-date report, salaries, $58,948, slightly up from November. Benefits, $14,710, up about $500 from November. Purchases and contract services, that was down $14,443. Library materials and information and supplies, that was up, and that was to be expected since it was the end of the year and we were trying to get everything paid. You'll notice there was a transfer that was approved, I believe, the November meeting of $122,500. Bank reconciliation worksheet. The bank balance after receipts and payments and all the adjustments was $823,400. Let me start again. $823,437. Outstanding payments. I do have just a couple. One payment left from December that has not cleared the bank, and that is the Sterling distribution of $94. And that was dated December 15th. The general fund cash flow, you'll notice the last column, it says estimated totals. That should actually be an actual total now because we are finished with the year. So that was my mistake. So let's see, the PLF, like Lynn mentioned last time, for December was $70,935. Services provided to other entities, we got a receipt for $4,693, and that was fourth quarter for the law library lease, which brought in $75,629 for December. All of our general fund expenditures totaled with the transfer $247,842. For the cash summary by fund report for the expenditures in the general fund, we had 125,342, which left our fund balance with all of the funds at 823,437. Payment listing report. Any questions about the payments? There's a lot of adjustments. That's what happens in December. Our total payments for December, I paid out 103,950. That spreadsheet report, the reconciliation report, I just mentioned the 103,950 were our payments. Our two payrolls for the month of December, one was 28,655. The other one was 29,358. So super close. I paid out the local taxes. And so with the transfer out, our total expenditures for December was 298,138. Fund summary report. We did leave $17,025 POs open for 2020. Those were mostly all book publishing companies. As we were getting books, the invoices were late. I blame it on the mail. So in that 17,000, there were no utilities, there were no credit card purchases open. It was all just book publishing. So we're dwindling that down as we speak. And then the last report is the fourth quarter report. I know everybody loves that quarterly report. So for the recap for fourth quarter, PLF was slightly up from 2019, about $1,500, which is awesome. The local taxes, the homestead tax rollback, we were up about 70,000 from 2019. So hopefully we see that again this year. Services provided to other entities up again about $4,000. Receipts, we were down about 2,300, and I'm going to blame that on the fines and fees that we did not receive this year due to COVID. So total 1.4. So we ended 2020 in great shape. So for the general fund salaries, we were down about 53,000. Furloughed some employees, so that's awesome. Benefits were down about 6,000. Our library materials were up around $11,000, and then all other operating expenditures we were down 35,000. So definitely, when it comes to expenditures, we were on the right track by going down, and we were bringing in more money than we put out. So, any questions? Okay.
I need a motion to
I'll
approve.
move.
I need a
I'll-
second.
Second.
I'll second.
Who second?
I'll do it.
Thank you. Kathleen,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the librarian's report, starting with the building report and statistics.
Sure. So you did receive a building report, and you've got Amber and Tanya on with us. So if you had any specific questions, particularly about Georgetown or Fayetteville, you could ask either of them about December, if they remember back that far, or just want to leave it behind and keep on moving. But we all know the last year has been interesting at best. Challenging. But I think the things that you see on the building report are definitely a testament to the creativity of the staff, their own endurance and patience, and just their ability to change and adapt as they need to. So kudos to them for carrying out some of the things that we typically do, but not doing it in ways that we typically did them.
Lynn, I love the gingerbread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how closely anybody looked at those, and Heather's
They were-
also with us,
they were
but
cute.
Heather will start coughing if she starts talking, so we're not going to ask her to speak. So what I have to say, and of course this is because I'm in this building and I witnessed this for myself, the staff members, as they were putting together the gingerbread house, and the absolute fun they were having, what a good morale boost it was for them, a great team effort. I watched as individuals, the group dynamics. I'm always very interested in that kind of a thing. So I can only suspect and hope that at the other buildings, it was the same kind of a thing, that it was a really good team activity. And I saw the character of people come out in ways that I never would see normally. So it was a great activity. And everybody else is being quiet. So does that mean we move on to statistics then?
Yes, Lynn.
Okay, moving on to statistics. So year end, year to date, one of the things that I know you hear from me regularly is I don't tend to get hung up too much over numbers, because the numbers themselves don't reflect the context of the situation. But as you all know, and have heard also from me this year, I mean, you're just going to nationally see downward trends in library circulation. We pulled together some preliminary numbers for the report that Sarah has to submit with her financials, because they ask in general for some circulation numbers. And indeed, our print numbers are down about 50%. Our print circulation is down about 50%, which is totally expected. But, I think that again, this is something, if you wanted to know what's going on at the branches, the managers could tell you, okay, there's no lack of activity. There's no lack of busyness. The patrons are still calling with all kinds of questions and requests. It's just different, or has been different over the past 8-10 months. I suspect as things change in the coming months, we'll see somewhat of a return of those numbers. But just as when, and I don't know if there's anybody here who remembers this, maybe Barb and Kathleen, 1997 and 98, when we shut down the Georgetown branch to automate and to renovate. And it was probably a couple of months worth of being shut down. It took some time for people to get used to the pattern of coming back to the building again. So let's just not be surprised by any period of time that it might take for people to transition to new patterns of behavior. Other than that, I don't see anything particularly that jumps out at me, except I do want to point out to you that I know in the past, some of the discard numbers, people have asked questions about those. And because there's such a disparity in this month's numbers, just to let you know that, there is catch up from the discards that were done in preparation for book sales. And we do try to target approximately 500 items per month. That's not necessarily an arbitrary number, but it's a way that branches can go, okay, I have something to shoot for, and I'll do this as regularly as I can to keep the constant flow of new materials. So if you just keep that in mind, and then you do a little bit of math with the numbers that are actually there, And I wrote it down somewhere and probably cannot find it now that I want to have it in front of me. I did some averaging, and if you average the end of year numbers, we're well within that 500 per month per branch number. So just something to clarify for everyone. Any questions about anything on there?
Lynn, the last I checked, I think you said we were averaging like 225 items a month across the board ish.
Cool. Great. So yeah, it's again, we shouldn't be looking at constantly growing our bottom line because we do not have space for all of that. And we also know that many of our materials or the usage of our materials is changing to digital format as well. So you don't have those things on the shelves and aren't necessarily collecting them in the same way or discarding them in the same way. Just different, again, the way it changes in the way that libraries operate.
Okay. Anybody
No.
else? Anything else? Okay, thank you, Lynn. All right, let's go on to announcements.
Okay, so announcements. We actually have a meeting with the locker people on Friday to do some preliminary work for the kind of oversight that, or the setup that needs to be done for our training. So we should be seeing those in use fairly soon, I would say, but they are installed. I think we've got one computer cable that needs to be plugged into the right place in order for everything to actually physically be operating well. And then some routine building things like the HVAC and the fire inspections are all coming up. You would have thought that it might have been a little bit slower over the holidays, but it seems like people packed in meetings and other things regardless. And so there was always something going on with outside vendors or doing attending to our own business. One of the things I may not have mentioned in the past, and this is under number 3, if you looked at your announcements page that I sent along, we got an iPad from SEO, our consortium. They had applied for CARES money and rolled some of that money out by purchasing enough iPads so that every library system in the consortium could have one. So we've got one, and it has to be used for patron-directed activities, such as that new self-checkout. So if people didn't come in with a phone but wanted to do their own checkout, we could bring up the app on the iPad and they could take the iPad and check out their own items and be on their way. So we have some work to figure out exactly how we're going to roll that out. We did, and this is new, last we met, I think we had still intended to do our Saturday hours starting the first weekend in February. Due to the conditions, however, we are pushing that back a month to March 6th. The library staff themselves have been impacted by illness, and so we find ourselves down a little bit in staffing, but I think the general consensus with the managers I've spoken to is that people are a little bit cautious, and there may not be demand right at this moment for us to expand our hours. And then we will be doing our staff development training again, because of the timing of vaccines and our general status right at the moment. We will do our March staff training day instead of as a single large group. We will do it by individual buildings again, just so you know that that's a little bit different than we had planned on. And then I know some other unexpected money. The Cook Foundation did send us $3,000 more than they had already told us that they were going to send us. And that specifically is to support additional Wi-Fi hotspots at the Georgetown branch. So, the conversation that Tanya and Heather and I had with the trustees of that foundation really, I think, well, literally paid dividends, and they listened to what we said and what we're doing, and decided it was worth putting some more money towards some of our needs. And other than that, those benches that were ordered way back in, I think it was summer, and were supposed to be delivered in August 1st, and then it was September, and then November. Well, they finally arrived. So Ginny does get to put them in place before she goes on into retirement. So that's all the announcements I have.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. Next, do we have any committee reports? No, Lynn is shaking her head no. Okay, so check that one off. Number 6, I need a motion to approve the proposal from Colonial Post and Fence at the Georgetown location. Cost not to exceed $7,000 and to be reimbursed by the Shelton Trust.
Okay, so before anybody makes any motions, I think, Tanya, if you don't mind giving an update on this project, since you've been the point person with Colonial Post and Fence.
So we did the quote on the back fence at 4 feet high with 2 corner accents at 3 feet high. That is regulation. We can't go any higher on this front. I spoke to John Ludy, and he was not happy with that height along the back. He was afraid people would be scaling it, different things. So I checked into it, and we can go to 5 feet high. If we go any higher than that, it has to be a privacy fence, and then we get into all kinds of other issues. I did talk to John today, and he is very happy with the 5 feet high fence along the back. But I am still waiting on the quote, the exact quote from Darren. John was accepting of going with the color, the beige, rather than the dark brown. There's about a $3,000 difference between the 2 colors. So everything is good for now, I guess. Just waiting on those final numbers from Darren.
I've had work done. I've had the posts on my patio. We had wood posts for years, and several years ago, he did my back patio. I think if I get new siding, I may have him do my front porch posts also. He does an excellent job. And I'll make that motion
Well,
because I don't know anyone that does as good a work as they do.
Well, and normally what we would do for a project of this dollar amount, even though it's not the library's, because the trust is going to be paying for it, but we are involved in it and are upfront perhaps handling it. Although I'm not sure, Tanya, if John spoke to that issue or not, if he wants, it just makes sense for us to do the financial transaction up front, and then the trust to give the money, if he wants to do it that way, to give the money to the library. That said, normally we would look at multiple bids for a project like this, but in Brown County, there are not, as Kathleen indicated, there are not very many, if any, that do this level of work. The Colonial Post and Fence is a chamber member. We know them. I will say that while Darren and his crew have not done work for me personally, they did do work for my son at his house and put up an entire backyard fence, and it was done well, done quickly, so I don't feel that there's any issue that way. And I believe, Tanya, that you indicated that John was fine with the price as well. That was what he expected something like this to cost. So that's not out of line. But we don't know how much adding that foot of height will add to the overall cost. So that's something that, we really do have to wait, I think, for that before we can move on it unless the board, felt comfortable saying, well, we'll do up to $10,000, as long as the trust is going to cover it, doesn't really make any difference how much upfront the library is going to do. I just need the approval because it's more than I can open a purchase order for. So I don't know, Tanya, if you have any thoughts about that as far as what Mr. Ludi was doing, or?
No, my conversation took place in the middle of the street. So it wasn't, I didn't prolong it more because he's actually going to come into the library and look at the catalog with me and have a longer conversation. It will probably be the beginning of next week.
Okay. So the question really is then, if the board does not take action tonight, is it going to be a problem to put it off until next board meeting for us to actually proceed with the project? That's really the question. Do you give some kind of a general approval now so that we can just go ahead and start getting this done, or do we wait?
Well, let's go with the general approval, Lynn.
Okay.
Is everybody else okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I move that we approve a proposal from Colonial Post and Fence not to exceed $10,000 with the understanding that that would be reimbursed by would be agreeable with the Shelton Trust.
That's exactly what I was thinking. $10,000,
Yeah.
Barb. Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
He's a reputable person.
And I'll second it.
Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
Okay, number 7, Georgetown Facility Project. Proposal was unavailable at the time of the mailing. So we're going to start with an update on the funding / process.
So, okay, remind me, had we met with the Cook Foundation trustees before the last library board meeting?
We talked about it, but I don't remember.
I don't recall, I don't remember that we did, but just briefly, Tanya and Heather and I did do a Zoom meeting with the 3 trustees from the Cook Foundation, and had an opportunity to talk about not just the Georgetown Library, but what our library is doing in general. What does the future look like for libraries, considering all of the move to digital? And I will say that there were 3 very distinct personalities in that group of trustees with different levels of understanding about libraries. So it was a great opportunity for us to be able to have that conversation. It was much more than a 2-minute elevator speech, but it was in essence that kind of a thing. Why are libraries still around, and what are they doing? And as I mentioned, part of that conversation led to the additional $3,000 to support additional Wi-Fi hotspots. So I think some things were learned on both sides. They were very pleased to know that we were already considering involving a professional organization to help us with the process. And they asked some really good questions about making sure there was input from the public, input from the staff and the library board before we proceed with anything. So we invited Matt Bauman of Library Design to come down. We've worked with Library Design. Well, that was one of the first outside vendors I met when I first came here in 1997 was Library Design, because they participated in the furnishings for the Georgetown renovation that was going on, and some level of outfitting all the other 3 branches as well when we did those construction projects. So tried and true, they know their thing. We've used them well when Georgetown had to put on a new roof and we needed to move and reestablish a library. So Matt came down, talked to us about the overall plan, our wish list, our dream list, and then went through the building with us and then said, this is what I'll do first. We will give you a proposal for the planning process. Once that is done, then the plans will be yours. They're property of the library. You can not ever do anything. You can use us, you can not use us, but it will be yours. And part of that would include things like getting the drawings of the floor plan, but not just the floor plan, also, electricity and water and cabling, so that if there's things that need to be moved, they don't make mistakes. It will entail things such as actually doing data assessments on our collections. It will involve getting feedback from the public, and they are all set to help us out with designing the ways that we gather this kind of feedback. And then one of the things that I like most about the whole process is that not only will they listen to us, and if we really don't like what they have, we can obviously make changes and adjustments. But if we do proceed with the project, they will, and using them, they will credit some part of the planning proposal cost to the actual remodeling or renovation. I think somewhere, is it number 6? Somewhere there is a clause, there's something that says they will, it's the next to the last paragraph. If we decide to proceed with the proposal, they'll do a rebate of up to 50% of the design fees. And in essence, I had a conversation with Matt because I thought, well, that might be something that I get some specific questions asked about it. I am as certain as I can be that we can count on Library Design to find the appropriate kind of reimbursement. If we only went ahead with a $50,000 project and the planning of it alone cost $30,000, they're probably not going to give us a total of $15,000 credit toward a $50,000 project. So it would be commensurate with whatever kind level of project we do. So I wanted to make that kind of clear that, we don't know, he couldn't say for sure, what the reimbursement would be, but we would get some kind of a credit. And I think that speaks volumes to how much they want to continue to do good work and keep their clientele. So the numbers, right? So the numbers say $150 hours, a maximum of 150 hours, right? Get my notes here. Too many pieces of paper. So 150 hours, I think I calculated the total cost to be a maximum of $26,000. Did anyone else crunch numbers?
I came up with 26,250.
Okay. And I honestly, I'm looking and I'm thinking, okay, I do have too many pieces of paper here because the one that I scratched those numbers on is not in front of me at the moment. But that is correct. So the other piece of the conversation with the Cook trustees was that they did say we could use some of the funds that they already gave us, that $25,000, to put towards the planning process. Now I guess it's up to you all, where is the balance? How much do we say that we are willing to and should spend of the library's budget, and make some kind of a match to whatever the Cook Foundation is willing to spend. And just to say that we won't be billed for any hours they do not use. So the 150 really is a maximum number of hours. It might be 100 hours, I don't know. Let the discussion begin.
Could we do some sort of a matching thing where, like, if you have a sense of about how much it's going to cost, we put up the same amount as the foundation?
So then just basically a 50-50, 50% from them, 50% capital improvements. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I would be up for a match too. I think that makes sense.
It shows our commitment for the Cook Foundation, that we're as committed as they are.
Yeah, Barb, it definitely sends a message, I think.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. We need a motion.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
Okay. That is great news. I will be really pleased to tell the Cook Foundation that, and I know that they will also be pleased to hear that the library is also that committed to this project and doing it the right way.
Good.
So now the real work begins. Tanya, I'm looking
Yay.
right at you, Tanya. The real work begins.
Is that it with that one, Lynn?
Unless there's anything else, Tanya, that anything important that I missed okay. All right. Yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you. Number 8, I need a motion to approve extension of the FFCRA paid sick leave benefits for the BCPL employees through February 28th, 2021. Leave may be used for the 6 qualifying reasons established by the U.S. Department of Labor, may be given in half-hour increments, and is paid at 100% of the regular rate of pay. All other eligibility guidelines and requirements set by the U.S. DOL remain in effect.
I'll
Yes.
move.
I'll move.
Well, then I'll second if you move.
I'm gonna move.
Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
So no questions about that or any? Okay. I do want to note that I did put in there through February 28th, and that will get us up to the next board meeting. And we may or may not look at this again because it is allowable to extend it through the end of March. I know right now we have needed it in the last couple of weeks. So it's been very helpful, and I know the staff are very appreciative of having that kind of support and flexibility. So thank you very much.
Okay, I need a motion to enter executive session.
I move.
I'll second.
Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Barb,